व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। त्रिविधं नरकस्येदं द्वारं नाशनमात्मनः कामः क्रोधस्तथा लोभः तस्मादेतत्त्रयं त्यजेत्। Using the magic of numbers, Vidura has been imparting quintessential words of wisdom to Dhritarashtra. Our life is like a battle where we constantly encounter different kinds of challenges. In this battle, many a times we tend to overlook and underestimate our enemies. And most often, the enemies are within. In fact, we have more enemies than we realize. The mind, with all its impurities, is a formidable enemy. These enemies prevent us from realizing our full potential. These enemies sabotage all the efforts that we undertake. And most often, we do not realize the formidable challenge in terms of various obstacles that these enemies create. Thankfully, we also have friends within. And we also have friends who are more powerful. The intellect and the intellect giver, the source of all intelligence, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Therefore, even though we have more enemies than we realize, we have more powerful friends than we realize. And therefore, sadhana is about building the right partnerships with the friends in order to counter the enemies within. Trividham narakasyedam dwaram nashanamaatmanaha kamaha krodhastatha lobaha tasmade tatrayam tyajet. These are the three evils, Vidura says, that need to be completely eradicated, need to be given up. Because we cannot get away from samsara with these three evils at play. We have seen extensively the effects of kama and krodha. Lobha, another evil which rules us without us realizing. In today's human society, greed has become the very DNA. Greed has become the very foundation of everything that we do. And in fact, we are taught that it is greed which drives success in lives. Now, there is a very thin line between greed and ambition. In fact, they are often misunderstood. Ambition is different, greed is different. Greed is dependence on external objects. Greed is a drive, is a selfish desire to possess more and more. Greed only continues to impel more dissatisfaction. The more we possess, the more dissatisfied we are. On the other hand, ambition is so very different. Ambition is also a desire, but it is about fulfilling a desire which is not contrary to dharma. In the Gita, Krishna says, Rasohamapsu kaunteya prabhasmi sasishuryasoho pranavaha sarvavedeshu shabdakka paurusham rishu, he says. Paurusham rishu, I am the Paurusha. I am the ability, I manifest. Krishna manifests as our unique abilities and talents in each and every one of us. Pranavaha sarvavedeshu sabdake paurusham rishu, Krishna says. I manifest as that unique talent, unique ability in everyone. So ambition is about using these talents, these unique talents, the manifestations of Krishna's power in each and every one of us, in order to fulfill desires that are not contrary to dharma. While greed, while ambition enriches us, ambition enriches, whereas greed makes us poor, stay poor. That's a fundamental difference between the two. And that is the reason why here Vidura includes greed in the list of 3 evils, apart from kama and krodha, the third evil which has to be discarded in order to escape the cycle of samsara. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Shuka says, Yasho yashasvinam shuddham shlagyaye guninam gunaha lobaha swalpopitan hanti shruto rupime vepistimam. He says, Yasho yashasvinam shuddham. Yasho yashasvinam shuddham. Wherever, whatever there is fame, whatever kind of fame is there in the famous, and whatever kind of good qualities are possessed by the virtuous, all of that are destroyed by a small amount of greed. A little amount of greed destroys all virtues. Just like how a beautiful face is the attractiveness of a beautiful face is completely destroyed by a small trace of leprosy. Greed is like that leprosy which destroys all kinds of virtues. Greed impels one to do all kinds of wrong things, cast aside all sensitivities towards others, act unidimensionally, always driven by wanting more and more without looking at consequences. Trividham narakasyedam dwaram nashanatmanaha. Therefore, these 3 form gateways to hell: kama, krodha and lobha. Kama krodastatha lobaha tasmadet tatrayam tyajet. Therefore, Vidura says all these 3 have to be discarded, have to be given up. Bhaktam cha bhajamanam cha tavasmiti vadinam trinetan sharanam praptan vishamepi na santyachet. A very beautiful Subhashita. Vidura says, Bhaktam cha bhajamanam cha tavasmiti vadinam. He says there are 3 kinds of people who, when they come seeking protection, should not be let down, should not be forsaken. Bhakta, a devotee or a follower. 1, 2, a servant who dutifully serves his master. And 3, one who comes seeking protection, saying, I am yours. Bhaktam cha bhajamanam cha tavasmiti vadinam trinetam sharanam praptan vishamepi na santyajet. All these 3, a leader, a king should not forsake, let down these three kinds of people. This Subhashita immediately reminds us of only one, the one and only Sharanagata Vatsala, Bhagavan Sri Ramachandra, who categorically declares, Sakriteva prapannaya tavasmiti chayachate abhayam sarvabhutebhyo dadamyetad vratam mama. He says, it's enough if one comes to me seeking protection and takes refuge once, saying, I am yours, I shall ensure complete protection. I assure complete protection from all perils. Rama declares. Now, Rama, in the course of convincing Sugriva and all the other Vanaras as to why he shall admit Vibhishana into their fold. Vibhishana comes all the way seeking protection. Vibhishana does Sharanagati. There is a lot of objection, resistance from everyone except Hanuman. Everyone advises Rama not to accept Vibhishana. But Rama goes on to give a convincing response. Rama recounts the story of a great dove, a pigeon. There were two pigeons, he says, happily living on a tree. And a hunter one day shoots an arrow and kills the female pigeon. And after a few months, the same hunter on a rainy day takes shelter under the same tree where the male pigeon continues to live. Shivering with cold, trying to find shelter under the tree because of heavy rains, the hunter then lights up fire and then has to continue for a long time taking shelter under the tree, the home of this male pigeon. And after some time, the hunter becomes so hungry. This male pigeon, in order to satisfy the hunger of the hunter, sacrifices itself by jumping into the fire and becoming the food for that hunter who happened to kill the female pigeon few months back. Rama recounts the story and looks at Sugriva and says, in that story, the hunter did not even seek protection. He did not ask for refuge. He just took shelter under the tree in the home of that male pigeon. And if that male pigeon can do such a great sacrifice, why shouldn't I take a vow, make a solemn pledge? Why shouldn't I protect Vibhishana who has done Sharanagati? So therefore, Vidura here very clearly says, Bhaktam cha bhajamanam cha tavasmiti vadinam. All these three have to be protected, taken care of by the leader. Then Vidura goes on and talks about the importance of organized knowledge. How organized knowledge must be used for organized living. And he talks about how a leader, a king must be careful when he consults. Chatvari rajñātu mahabalena vajjanyahuhu panditastani vidyāt alpa prajñaihi sahamantram na kuryān na dirgha sūtrair ralasaischa. Now Vidura gives advice as to who should be consulted and who should not be consulted. He says a king must not consult the following. He talks about a king should not consult these four kinds of men. Who are these four? Alpa prajñah. Alpa prajñah sahamantram na kuryān dirgha sutra ralasaischa ranaischa. Alpa prajna. One prajna, wise. Alpa prajna. One who is unwise, dim-witted. One who is not situated in intelligence. Then the second one is one who acts in haste without deliberation. Third, one who keeps procrastinating. And fourth, one who is a sycophant, keeps flattering. The king must avoid all these, should not consult with these four kinds of people, he says. The king must avoid those who are disorganized. What? The common thread across all this is one who is disorganized, one who is not using his knowledge in organized living, not situated in perfect intelligence. Being situated in perfect intelligence is the very prerequisite of any journey. Of course, for any spiritual journey, one must be situated in perfect intelligence. During the episode of Gajendra Moksha, Vyasa says, Yevam vyavastito buddhya samadayo manohridi japapa pranamam japyam pragjanmani anushikshitam. Gajendra, after struggling for a long time, finally realized that his mind needs to be fixed, his intelligence needs to be fixed. His heart and mind have to come together and be fixed on Bhagavan. And then, with the grace of Krishna, Gajendra remembers the Maha Mantra that he needs to chant. So therefore, to be situated in perfect intelligence is the key not only for a spiritual pursuit, but also for a material pursuit. Because organized living is so very important, and knowledge, being organized, is not enough. That organized knowledge has to translate into organized living. And Vidura says only those who demonstrate this trait need to be trusted, and only you should consult with those who can give you organized advice here. Also, he includes those sycophants who also need to be avoided. Flattery. There is a huge difference between flattery and appreciation. Appreciation is very important, not flattery. Flattery is insincere, excessive praise given with a bad intention. Whereas appreciation is recognition of good qualities and is given based on the principle of gratitude. For the receiver, flattery at best is like chewing gum. One can enjoy it but should not swallow it. So therefore, to a king, Vidura says, the king must avoid all these four kinds. Alpa prajnaha, sahamatram na kuryan, na dirgya sutrai, ralasaishcha ranaischa. Dhritarashtra, you must avoid consultation with all these four kinds of people, he says. Chatwari, now he goes and takes up the number 4. No, Vidura continues to inspire and intrigue by choosing numbers and embedding quintessential wisdom in simple numbers. He takes up the number 4. Chatwari karmanya bhayankarani bhayam prayachantya yathakrutani managriha hotram utamana maunam manenadhimuta manayajnaha. Managnihotram uta mana maunam manena adhitamuta manayajnaha. 4 things he is talking here. He says 4 activities. There are 4 activities, 4 injunctions of our Shastras that are given in order to overcome fear. What are these 4 injunctions? Agnihotra, performance of Agnihotra, offering oblations to fire with full faith. This is part of Deva Yajna. Second, Maunavrata, observance of silence. Third, Adhita, study of scriptures. 4, Yajna, all kinds of Vedic rituals. Now, When these injunctions are performed, executed properly, they help us conquer fear. But Vidura says, when these same injunctions, when these same activities are performed, are not done properly, they generate fear, he says. When Agnihotra is not performed properly, when an oblation is not given properly, when in the process of giving, the process of giving is more important than the giver. When the giver tries to take prominence, when the ego comes in, fear also comes in along with it. Similarly, Maunavrata, vow of silence, is not to prove a point to somebody else. It is for one's own cleansing. When Maunavrata is done for the sake of proving a point, when there is pride, that is why he says, Mana Maunam, Maunam, Mana Maunam, Mana. Vidura adds Mana to each of these. Managnihotram, Mana Maunam, Maunam, Mana Maunam. When pride is added, any delicious food with whatever ingredients it is made of becomes inedible the moment a dash of poison is added to it. So similarly, the same Vedic injunctions, the same activities that can help us conquer fear become ineffective and in fact generate fear the moment pride is added to the activity. So Mana Maunam, Manena Adhitamut, study. Now study, there should be no fear in study, but the moment pride comes in, when study is for the sake of recognition, then automatically there is fear. Study is not for the sake of any study, is not for the sake of any rewards, not for the marks. When there is focus on the marks, the focus on the marks results in the loss of a marked focus on the true objective. Therefore, Manenadhimutha, a study which has pride added to that only brings in fear. Mana Yajnaha. Yajna is the way of living. Now, Mana Yajnaha, any ritual that is done, Vedic ritual that is done, when it is done because of pride, then one does it for the sake of approval, for the sake of recognition, for the sake of praise. And in that process, there is an expectation, and that expectation results in fear. So Vidura says, all these 4 important activities, injunctions of our Shastras, cannot be performed with pride. Mana needs to be completely eradicated. When Prahlada prays to Bhagavan Nrsimha, in his prayers, Prahlada talks about 10 Vedic injunctions. Prahlada says, Mauna, Vrata, Shuta, Tapaha, Adhyayana, Swadharma, Vyakhya, Rahaha, Japaha, Samadhaya, Apavargyaha, Prayah Paramam Purusham Te Vajendriyanam, Varta Bhavantyutanavattratu Dhambikanam, Prahlada says. Mauna, silence, Vrata, vow, Shuta, Vedic knowledge, Tapaha, austerity, Adhyayana, study of scriptures, Swadharma, executing one's Varnashrama dharma, Vyakhya, explaining the Shastras, Rahaha, living in solitary places, Japaha, chanting and reciting mantras, Samadhanaha, remaining in Samahadi, state of meditation. All these 10 types of activities are prescribed for the advancement towards liberation, Prahlada says. But they are useless the moment Dambha comes in the scenario. The moment mana comes in, all these 10 are useless. In fact, all these 10 are prescribed for only one reason. In order to conquer the indriyas, in order to bring the indriyas under control. But unfortunately, Prahlada says, it is the same activities which seem to be fueling pride. What is the point in performing those activities when one cannot conquer the senses with these? And he says, goes on to say, it is only through bhakti that one can actually conquer and master one's senses. The same message Vidura is giving here in terms of the 4 kinds of activities that are meant to dispel fear, end up causing fear. And he takes up the number 5. Panchagneyo manushyena paricharyaha prayatnataha pita matagniratmacha guruscha bharatarshabha. A very wonderful subhashita. Panchagneyo manushyena paricharyaha prayatnataha. He says there are 5 fires that need to be worshipped. Panchagni he talks of. Panchagnayo manushyana paricharyaya prayatnataha. What are these 5 fires? Pita, Mata, Agni, Atma, Guruhu. Pita, Mata, Agniratma cha Guruscha Bharatarshabha. These are the 5 fires that need to be constantly worshipped. Hey Bharatarshabha, no, here Pita, Mata, Agni, fire, Atma, Atma here, Atma with a capital A, Paramatma, Guruhu. These are the 5 fires. Fire is a great purifier. Fire by characteristic is a great purifier. And that is the reason why Agni is worshipped. Now, during Matsyavatara, at the end of Chakshusha Manvantara and the beginning of Vaivaswata Manvantara, when Bhagavan took the avatar of Matsya, as he was in the process of rescuing Satyavrata, Bhagavan in the form of Matsya was also giving instructions to Satyavrata. And as part of the instructions, Bhagavan says, Yat sevayagner ivarudra rodanam Puman vijahyan malam atmanastamaha bhajeta varnam nijamesha ishovyayoh bhuyat sayishaha paramo guror guruhu. He says, gives a very interesting example. He says, Yat sevayagner ivarudra rodanam. Just like how blocks of gold or silver, when they are treated in fire, they are fully purified. They are completely decontaminated. All the impurities are removed. When gold is subject to fire, but treated with fire, it becomes pure gold. All the impurities are completely eradicated. Similarly, Bhajeta Varnam Nijayesha Sovyayo Bhuyat Sayishaha Paramo Gurur Guruhu. Paramo Gurur Guruhu. The Guru of all Gurus is Bhagavan himself. And when one does bhakti to him, that bhakti is a great purifier. Samsara is contamination. When the Atma, when the Jiva Atma is contaminated with all purities because of its association with Prakriti, which is made of 3 gunas. How can this decontamination happen? The process of decontamination is devotional service. Only through devotional service, the Jivatma can get decontaminated. And therefore, just like how when gold is treated with fire, gets completely decontaminated, mere washing is not enough. If a piece of gold is just washed, it is not fully purified. it has to be treated with fire in order for all the impurities to be eradicated. Similarly, all sadhanas are like washing this gold. Bhakti is that fire, is the great purifier. And Bhagavan himself is the purifier of all purifiers. Pitahamasya jakataha mata dhata pitamahaha pedyam pavitram omkaraha riksava yajurevacha. Krishna declares in the Gita. Pedyam pavitram. I am the purifier to be known from the Vedas. The purifier. I am the pristine purity he represents. And he is the one who can purify all the impurities can be eradicated. And therefore he is Vedyam Pavitram. And Bhagavan, the Guru of all Gurus, also comes to us in various forms. Pita, forms which are access to us. Pita, Mata, Guru. And this is what Vidura here says. Pita Mata Agniratma cha Guruscha Bharatarshabha Panchagnayo Manushyena Paricharyaha Prayatnataha. The Guru is the embodiment of the fire of Jnana. It is with the fire of Jnana the Guru purifies everyone. Pita is the fire of giving. He is the source. Pita is the source of security and prosperity for the children. And he represents, he embodies the fire of giving. And this fire of giving purifies. Mata is the fire of compassion. And with this fire of compassion, the Mata purifies her children. Thus, Pita, Mata and Guru represent the Guru of all Gurus, the Pita of all Pitas, the Mata of all Matas, Bhagavan. And therefore Vidura says one must engage in constant worship of all these 5 fires. Then Vidura goes on talking about the difficulty, the challenge of control and mastery of senses. Panchendriyasya martyaisya chidram chedakamindriyam tatosya stravita prajnadritehe padadi modakam. He says, out of the 5 senses or perception, even if one goes astray, these senses, when they become holes, energy leaks start to happen, he says. Our discretion, our intelligence starts to flow out. The vital energies start to drain and deplete. Even if one sense goes astray out of the 5, we start to lose energy. The intelligence starts to leak. Now, what does he mean when he says when the senses start to leak, intelligence also starts to flow and leak and drain? After all, are sensual pleasures, are they not enjoyable? The answer is, sensual pleasures are enjoyable, or they seem to be enjoyable, at least to begin with, initially. Over a period of time, pleasure starts to decrease. The craving starts to increase. This is very important to recognize this fact with all kinds of sensual pleasures, with all pleasures that we engage with using our senses. Initially, it seems to be pleasurable, every engagement of the sense with the sense object. But the same pleasure over a period of time starts to decrease, and the craving starts to increase, so much so that eventually the senses starts to indulge with sense objects, not for gaining pleasure, but more for avoiding the pain of intolerable craving. If you take the example of an alcoholic, the addiction, the alcoholism, the addiction over a period of time results in the alcoholic getting tormented, and he starts to drink not for the sake of getting high, but more for the sake of being normal. So therefore, when the senses start to go astray, when the senses become holes, our whole life starts to revolve around sensual experiences only. And when the life revolves around what is sensual, we miss out on the abundance of the spiritual. That is why Vidura here says, Panchendriyasya martyasya chidram chedeka mindriyam tatosya stravati prajna dritehe padadibodakam. He says, just like how when there is a pot and there is a hole in this pot and the pot starts leaking, similarly he says every sense becomes a hole and starts to leak. When the senses starts to leak, intelligence starts to leak. Fixing a leaking bucket is far more important than filling the bucket. Fixing a leaking bucket is far more important than filling the bucket. So if we only keep pouring more and more into the bucket, it is a useless effort because it keeps leaking and draining and depleting. And therefore, if the senses start to act like holes, and that too holes in darkness, because why? They do not recognize and filter out what is right as stimuli start coming inside. Stimuli starts to bombard them. They keep on taking all garbage inside. They are not just holes, they become dark holes where there is no recognition, there is no filtering of whatever stimuli that comes in. That is why Krishna in the 14th chapter very clearly, categorically says, Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasham upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyat vivruddham satya vityuta. Sattva. It is with the sattva, illumination of sattva, that Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasham upajayate. The senses, which are like the holes, need to be illumined. Sarvadvara, the doorways, they have to be illumined. If the door is open all the time, and on top of it, if there is only darkness, then we know what happens. There is no way of stopping any malicious intruders. Therefore, we would necessarily, if the door cannot be closed, the next best thing we can do is at least illuminate the doorway, so that we know and then we can control what comes in. And Krishna says, this is the only way to do that is Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasham upajayate. How do I illuminate it? Jnanam yada tada vidyat vivruddham sattva mityuta. It is with sattva that I illumine. I illumine the doorways, illumine the senses. When I illumine the senses, then I start to control. Engagement of the senses is a process. It has to start with control. It has to evolve into concentration, and then end with the conquest. Control, concentration, conquest. But can we go through this process on our own? Very formidable, almost impossible. And that is the reason why Shastras give us various ways and means of doing this. The great Bhakta Kulashekara in Mukundamala beautifully gives us the way to engage the senses. Jihve kirtaya keshavam मुररिपुं चेतो भज श्रीधरं पाणिद्वन्द्व समार्च्य अच्युतकथा श्रोत्रद्वयं त्वं शृणु कृष्णं लोकय लोचनद्वय हरेर्गच्छाङ्घ्रियुग्मालयं जिग्रग्राण मुकुन्दपादतुलसीं मूर्धन्नम अधोक्षजम्. What a glorious verse of Kulashekara. Jihve kirtaya keshavam. The tongue needs to be used only for one purpose, to sing the glories of Keshava, the Supreme. Jihve kirtaya keshavam. Muraripim cheto bhaja. The mind has to be deployed only to meditate on Murari, the dispeller of ignorance. Sridharam Panidvandva Samarchya. The hands, the two hands, have to be employed for only one purpose, to worship Sridhara. Achyuta Katha Shotradvayam Tvam Shrunu. The 2 ears are meant to be deployed only to listen to the glories of Achyuta. Very important to note here. Achyuta Katha Shotradvayam Tvam Shrunu. Both the ears have to be employed at the same time. Otherwise, with one ear, when we listen with one ear and then we let out what we listen through the other ear. Both have to be deployed to listen. Krishnam Lokaya Lochanadvaya. The eyes are meant only to experience the Bhuvana Sundara, Krishna. Harer Gachangri Yugmalayam. And in order to experience him further, the legs have to be used to take us all the way to his abode, to his temples. Harer Gachangri Yugmalayam. Jigragrana Mukunda Pada Tulasi. The nose is to be used only to smell the divine fragrance of that tulasi, which has its association with the divine lotus feet of Krishna. Murdhannama adokshajam. The head is given to us to bow, bend, prostrate to the holy feet of Madhava. Therefore, how do we prevent the senses from leaking, from going astray? The only way is to engage them in blissful service to Krishna. It is very important not to allow our mind to show us what we are missing. It is important to show the mind what it is missing by engaging all the senses in service to Krishna. And that is the only way to journey on this process of control, concentration, and conquest. Control the senses by giving them direction towards Krishna. Bring in concentration by engaging them with Krishna's glories, his beauty, his limitless beauty. And then the conquest automatically happens because the senses then are taken over by Krishna himself. And thus, here, Vidura points out that how the senses should not be let to go astray. The senses by design start taking senses of the sense objects all the time. And therefore, it is important to ensure that it engages in the right kind of activities. Activities that are oriented towards service to Krishna. Now, Vidura moves on and takes up the number 6. Shaddoshaha purusheneha hatavya bhutimichhata nidra tandri bhayam krodha alasyam dhirkasutrata. Shaddoshaha. 6 doshas he is listing here. A man who aspires for prosperity, a man who aspires for growth, both material growth and spiritual growth, he says, must give up these 6 undesirable traits: nidra, tandri, bhayam, krodham, alasyam, dheerghasutrata. Nidra, excessive sleep; tandri, fatigue; bhayam, fear; krodha, anger; alasya, laziness; dheerghasutrata, procrastination. Now, it is important to realize here that all these 6 in this context, all these 6 are interrelated. Sleep, fatigue, fear, anger, laziness, procrastination. They are all interrelated. Fatigue, because fatigue and laziness, when we are overcome by fatigue and laziness and we let go of the control on our own mind and our thoughts, many a times we let the mind get carried away. When the mind gets carried away and starts to process all the thoughts on its own, and when we completely let it go, be it because of fatigue, be it because of laziness, and also because of procrastination of not exercising our will to take some tough calls. When the mind gets carried away and starts to process all kinds of these thoughts which revolve around unfulfilled desires drive anger. Thoughts which revolve around imaginary losses drive fear. And when the mind gets carried away, processing all these thoughts in wilderness, and we do not realize this until we reach a point where we completely get lost in the forest of darkness. And when that happens, there can be no growth, material or spiritual. And that is the reason why here Vidura is talking about the importance of these 6 undesirable traits. The 6 undesirable traits which need to be conquered in order for one to achieve growth and prosperity. Procrastination, laziness, excessive sleep, fatigue, fear, anger, all of these in all are interconnected in this context. It seems there was this fish which, as usual, was swimming around in the lake, looking around for fun, pleasure and food, swishing merrily, going around. And then there was this menacing eagle which was flying above the lake, swoops down and perches on a branch of a tree on the banks of this lake. And the eagle starts to stare at the lake with all concentration, one-pointedness. And suddenly, the eagle dives head down into the lake. And after a brief skirmish and all splashing, the eagle emerges out of the lake with the fish in its beak, with the struggling fish in its beak, and flies far into the sky. There's a very important moral in this story. Just like this fish, most of us go around merrily looking for fun, pleasure, putting off critical things, putting off things which are real priority in life to be addressed some other day. Procrastination becomes very natural. Priorities in life are completely misplaced. without realizing that any time the red-eyed eagle of fate can strike. There is another important moral, important lesson from this story. If this fish was actually swimming deeper in the lake, there is no way that this eagle could have struck and caught. Similarly, it is very important for one to swim in the life of samsara, go deeper and deeper and connect with the deeper reality. To start experiencing the deeper reality of one's purpose of life. Time, when wasted, is just existence. Time, when used, becomes life. So therefore, whether one goes through existence or whether one goes through living, one needs to reflect on. And Vidura here is very clearly instructing that the 6 undesirable traits, especially with the focus on fatigue, excessive sleep, laziness, procrastination. Fear and anger always come around in all circumstances. And he says, all these 6 undesirable traits must be given up for anyone who aspires for anything in life, be it material prosperity or spiritual prosperity. And then Vidura goes on and talks about another illness of ingratitude. He says, Shadete hyavamanyante nityam purvopakarinam acharyam sikshita siksha kritadarascha mataram narim vikatakamastu kritartascha prayojakam navam nistirna kantara naturascha chikitsakam. He gives examples of 6 ungrateful people. Vidura is talking about ingratitude here, which is a very, very acute illness. He says one must beware of these 6 ungrateful people. He gives examples of 6 ungrateful people, examples of ingratitude. He says 1, those acharyam sikshita sikshaha, the sishyas who are indifferent to their acharyas, who do not demonstrate their gratitude, the disciples who do not demonstrate their gratitude to their acharyas. Acharyam sikshita sishyam kritadarascha mataram. He says, a man who gets married and then completely forgets the happiness of his mother. When the dara comes, the mother goes. Another example of ungrateful attitude. Narim vigatakamastu, one who forgets a woman after fulfillment of all his desires. Kritartascha prayojakam, one who after having achieved success and completely neglects those who have helped him in the accomplishment. Navam nistirnantakara, navam nistirna kantara, one who does not recognize the help rendered by a boat after crossing over a river. Naturascha chikitsaka, and one who after getting cured by a doctor completely becomes indifferent to the doctor. So Vidura says these are illnesses of ingratitude. So gratitude is the very foundation for our spiritual journey. Gratitude has to be practiced not just on a daily basis. Gratitude has to be practiced on an hourly basis. One has to constantly lead one's life rooted in gratitude. The challenges to gratitude, both adversity and prosperity come in the way. Because both adversity and prosperity can shake one and get one away from being in a state of gratitude. While misery can threaten our faith, pleasure can deaden, can deaden our sense of purpose. So both adversity and prosperity need to be managed, and one needs to be in a state of gratitude amidst adversity and prosperity. Also, comforts often breed complacency. With more comforts, one becomes more complacent and start to forget, thank those who are responsible for those comforts. This is exactly what happened to Sugriva. Now, after having promised Rama of all the help, and after receiving Rama's help, after Rama vanquished Vali, they agreed that they will wait for the rainy seasons to be completed before the search for Sita can start. With all the comforts, Sugriva got lost in sensual revelry, became complacent, and became ungrateful. And eventually, Lakshmana had to come, and finally, the wrath of Lakshmana was managed very tactfully by Tara. And Sugriva went scot-free, not being punished. Therefore, comforts breed complacency. We need to be watchful of this ingratitude that can creep in any moment. It's a very important message that Vidura gives here. Therefore, let us continue to contemplate on this important value of gratitude. It is one's attitude of gratitude that determines one's true altitude. Vyasam vasishtanaptaram shakter pautramakalmasham parasharatmajam vande shukatatam taponithim. Sarvam Sri Krishnarpanastu.